flows very much more smoothly.
Yeah.
My Lords, I guess I should rise at this point to follow with pleasure the noble Lady Baroness Randerson, who has made a point that I was, of course, also going to make, and to also note that in Scotland they're going for 2025, so this is really a case where England urgently needs to catch up. On that point, I'm going to speak primarily to my Amendment 482, which does indeed make standard speed limit on restricted roads. It's very simple. For 30, substitute 20. This is a 20's plenty amendment. Now, I'm just going to chiefly speak to that, although I will just note that this is a very neat and fit group of amendments, the grouping of them all together. Express green support for Amendment 240. We obviously need to get the active transport joined up to make the preparation to make sure it happens. Also, obviously, Baroness Pennick and Baroness Randerson's 486 on disability access in railway stations. Of course, broadly agree with also the electric vehicle charging points here, although I would just make the point of the interaction between these two, that we have to make sure that where vehicle charging points are installed on roads, they do not make the pavements less accessible, particularly for people with disabilities, people with strollers and other issues. Where the space should be taken from is space taken from the road, not from cars, not space taken from pedestrians. So returning to my Amendment 482, which would make the default general speed limit for restricted roads 20 miles per hour. Among the many organisations recommending this was TRL, formerly the government's Transport Research Laboratory. And then going from the local to the international, there was, of course, the Stockholm Declaration adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2020, which recommends 20 mile per hour speed limits where people walk, live and play. That's the global standards that the world's heading towards, and we really do need to catch up on this. The fact is, of course, that I can see much nodding around your Lordship's house. I'm sure many noble lords know that pedestrians are 7 times more likely to die if they are hit by a vehicle travelling at 30 mile per hour compared to 20 mile per hour. If they are aged 60 or over, they are 10 times more likely to die hit with a vehicle at 30 rather than 20. Now, you might say, well, this is the Levelling Up Bill and this is a general provision. But just to draw on one of many reports that reflect on this, the Marmot Review, Fair Society, Wealthy Lives, says that targeting 20 mile per hour zones in deprived residential areas would lead to a reduction in health inequalities. Except there's, of course, a problem. The Marmot report was looking in the current legal framework for travel, but it's extremely expensive to bring in local areas of 20 mile per hour speed limits. You have to have local signage, you have to have individual traffic regulation orders, you then presumably have to have some hope of compliance, you have to have an education campaign. All of those things cost money, which some of the poorest areas of the country's councils are going to find it most difficult to actually achieve that, to find those funds. And if we think about some of the other impacts as well as road safety impacts, 20 mile per hour speed limits where people live, work and shop reduce air pollution, they reduce noise pollution. These are things which particularly tend to be problems in the most deprived areas. They also, the wonderful 20's Plenty campaign that's been working on this so long and increasingly effectively, notes that there's a 30% reduction in fuel use with 20 Plenty. So you're actually saving people money as well, something that's of particular interest to most deprived areas of the country. So this is a very simple measure. It's a measure that we're catching up with other nations on these islands. It's a measure where we could really make an improvement to people's lives, to their health, to their well-being. And I've focused on the practical health impacts, but that also the reason why this group of amendments fits together so well. If you want to encourage walking and cycling, then cars, vehicles on the roads travelling more slowly is a great way to open up the entire road network to cyclists and walkers. And of course to also build community. The reduction in noise pollution gives neighbours more of a chance to chat over the garden fence, more of a chance to build those communities that we desperately need.
Well done. My Lords,